Hey, it's only me. Stick around if you want to hear more about Dr. Anxiety and why I'm always sick. Before we get started, here are the trigger warnings. So I've been battling a cold recently, which has turned into a chest infection, which just kind of seemed to spiral out of control and landed me in hospital. Why did I get so ill? There are quite a few reasons. I have been pretty busy lately. My children have been ill, I've been ill, hubby's been ill. I still have all my responsibilities. I'm still unpacking. Everything's a little crazy. So I've been putting everybody else's needs ahead of mine, and I've been trying to do everything and be perfect and do loads of stuff, and I've run myself completely into the ground. Completely. I'm down in the ground. And I ignore my own needs a lot of the time. I don't take time for myself. I don't take time to rest and relax. And what that means is sometimes the colds and the illnesses that I have can get out of control because I'm not actually looking after myself the way that I should. Unfortunately, as a child, if you had neglectful or abusive parents, you could become quite unhealthy due to your diet. It's easy to get an unhealthy relationship with food if you've had food insecurity or starvation or hunger or anything of that nature, or if your life was just really chaotic and people didn't really prepare food for you properly. So maybe that would be, excuse me, still sick. Maybe that would be inappropriate foods, or not really looking after your diet or teaching you how to eat properly or be nutritious. It's really hard for me, and I've got as healthy as I can be, I think, and I do have 3 meals a day. But I grew up with food insecurity, so I find it really difficult to have a healthy relationship with food, and I've worked really hard on getting myself back on track and getting as healthy as I can be. I just feel like a rubbish childhood is just the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it? Trauma in your childhood is the gift that keeps on giving, because there are so many aspects that make your life so much harder and can make you quite ill. So improper nutrition as a child, or even as you're an adult and you're trying to fumble your way through life, learning things that other people were just taught, you have to start over, don't you? And you have to learn these things. So anyway, I'm getting a bit off topic because it does make me very angry to feel like, why couldn't I just have the start that everybody else seems to have? Why couldn't I just have the good start and not have the problems that I have now? Anyway, I have a really difficult relationship with food. And I'll probably go through that in a different video, actually, because I feel like there's a lot to it and it is a trigger for me. So I kind of want to delve into that a little bit with you, but not within this video. Having an unhealthy relationship with food can weaken your immune system, whether that's in childhood or kind of going into adulthood or whatever. So that it could just be one aspect for you. It definitely is for me. So if you have a mental illness or PTSD, sometimes we have to do things to cope with that illness before we're well. Sometimes we have to do unhealthy things in our lives to cope with our symptoms before we're able to face what's going on with us. It just doesn't happen straight away for anyone, I don't think. I've never heard anyone say, oh, it was no problem. I grew up, got out of my family's house, and everything was fine immediately, and I just got through it. It doesn't work that way. I'm getting totally off topic, but I'm sorry, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Basically, you have a period, don't you, where you're unhealthy and all these symptoms come crashing down, and you have to cope with real life while dealing with those symptoms. So you have to find a way to make it work, and you have to find a way to live. So yeah, we all, I'm sure, have done really unhealthy things in that period of our life, in that season of our life where we weren't ready, or we could not deal with our symptoms, with our PTSD, with the things that were happening to us in our lives and in our bodies. So I'm just gonna throw that out there once, and I'm kind of hopefully I'm pretty much past that point in my life. I think I am. I feel like I'm really healthy in that regard for the most part. I can still think of some things that I can improve, but you know, I wouldn't be a human if there was nothing I could improve. Also, if you've experienced abuse or neglect as a young person or child, you might not have been taught to look after yourself properly. In a chaotic environment we're not really modeled what's best to look after yourself and to really nurture yourself. If you've spent your life being silenced, you might have a bit of trouble going to the doctor. I do. I have so much anxiety and I hate it so much. I hate doctors in general, and I try to never go because I do feel like, who's gonna listen to me? Why would anyone listen to what I have to say? Why would anyone think I'm actually very sick? I feel like I have to not really catastrophize. I'm not faking it. I just feel like I have to lay it on a little thicker than it has to be, because I feel like if I walk in there like I am right now, I've had 3 hours of sleep, but look at me, I'm trying to look presentable. So if I walked into a GP right now, how are they gonna think that I feel? Pretty well, actually. And I always feel like they're not gonna believe me, and so I do have to kind of lay it on a little thicker and like maybe somehow seem a little sick. Even though I genuinely am, and I do need help, but I still kind of feel like, oh gosh, they're not gonna believe me, so I've got to like really be struggling. Even though I don't think that's actually true, but that's how I feel. That means sometimes I do wait too long to get medical treatment. If you've been told your whole life that any illness, ache, or pain you have is something that you're just making up, then it's really hard for you to speak up to a doctor. And I definitely feel like they never believe me. I feel totally silenced, just like I was a kid again. It's awful. I feel like they're basically saying, it's all in your head. You're being dramatic, over the top, hypochondriac, drama queen. If you feel like you're that silenced child, once again, going to your GP or your doctor, it's going to be so hard, and there's so much anxiety relating to that whole situation. If you experienced any medical neglect, or you felt as if your caregivers didn't advocate for you when you really needed help, then I think that is just another cherry on top, isn't it? If your parents specifically didn't even believe you, how are they going to advocate for you in a doctor's appointment? They can't. They don't even really believe you. So you miss out on the experience of somebody advocating for you and your health as a child, and that's a very vulnerable place. That bothers me so much. And then when I sit down in front of a doctor, I don't know what to say. I feel like they don't believe me. I think I seem crazy, definitely. And of course, I feel fobbed off now that they know that I have PTSD because I've told them. My doctors have only recently found out that I have PTSD, even though I was diagnosed a long time ago. But I didn't want them to fob me off, and I definitely feel like I've lost credibility with them already. It's such a difficult place to be in, but I've definitely had a bad experience with one doctor already relating to it, and I just feel like it's such a setback. Like, what are we, in the 1800s or something? So if you're in a place in your life right now where you're hiding your mental illness from your healthcare provider, I totally see you and I totally get you. I did it for a long time and I have no regrets. Eventually, I did have to actually open up because I got postpartum depression. And of course, I feel like as a parent, I got worried for my children, and I wanted to be really open with my healthcare provider about that. I think having PTSD specifically is very confusing because sometimes I feel like I have more aches and pains, or I feel them sooner than other people do, and I feel like I want to go get checked out and get help. But I either go way too soon, or I get anxiety and I leave it to the last second to where I'm like deathly ill because I don't want to go in. So I feel like I'm never just like in that sweet spot of being just on time. And if I've had a lot of anxiety and I'm kind of working through it and I'm like, yes, okay, I'm at a healthy state right now, I've actually had some sleep, I'm ready to go to the GP for those 50 little minor illnesses that have been bothering me for the past 5 years, well, then you seem crazy, don't you? Also, if you've experienced trauma in your childhood, it might be difficult for you to sit in front of an authority figure. I definitely have this problem so much. It was always a person in authority over me who was hurting me most of the time. I say always, that's not necessarily true, but I would say the worst things and the most traumatic things they were. And so much has happened relating to authority, and I just find it so difficult. And so sitting there in front of a GP in a vulnerable situation, such as, you know, sometimes they have to touch your body, sometimes you have to be naked, you know, and they're assessing you, and it's crazy. It's a horrible feeling, really. I'm surprised I can go at all, really, but you know, needs must. You push yourself, don't you, to do what's best for yourself and to do what the average person would do, even though it's really hard. So if you struggle with authority, don't be surprised if you have more anxiety going to the doctor than the average person. Sometimes I do think going to the GP and sitting down in the chair and having the anxiety and feeling like this, it makes you seem crazy already. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to go in there and seem like I'm totally off the wall, but I just feel like that's how they see me. I'm pretty sure they think I make everything up and that I'm completely insane. Although it's not true. That is not true and I know it, but it's just how I feel about it, and it's so uncomfortable. I just really hate the doctor. I hate anything relating to the doctor. When you've experienced trauma, it's really hard to not imagine that your life could just change like that for the worst, because that has happened to me. It's happened to you. So how do you turn that off? It's just something we have to live with, unfortunately. And just going into the GP sends me into like this weird existential crisis where I feel in touch with my mortality. If you've had any trauma in your life, you're more aware than most people of how your life can change in a matter of minutes. So that GP says one sentence to you, maybe even one word to you, and you know that that can change your life. If that doesn't give you anxiety, what will? I have found a fantastic doctor who I go to regularly. She's my primary care physician. I absolutely love her. As soon as I sit down, she's calm, she's sweet, she listens to everything that I say, she takes me seriously, and I know she knows I'm not crazy, and she knows about my health conditions and my mental health, and she's absolutely fantastic. And when I sit in that chair across from her specifically, I feel relaxed, and I know she's gonna listen to me, and I know that I can be truthful. And she always asks before she touches my body in any way or anything. She explains things to me, and I always appreciate that. So if you're having trouble with your primary care physician or your doctors, you're feeling a lot of anxiety, or you just have a really rubbish GP, go and get that sorted. You can do better, definitely. Let me know some of your coping strategies on how you get by at the doctors. See you next time. Okay. It's sad. It's quite sad looking at this. Sometimes I don't really realize how bad it was because I do minimize what happened to me. And then when I see it like this, or I hear it like this, it's actually really sad. Yeah, it is. It's sad to hear it coming out of your own mouth. Anyway, here we are. I have to take it easy. This is actually really hard. Environment, we're not really modeled what's best to look after yourself and to really nurture yourself and get yourself healthy. Why am I laughing at that? That's very, very unfortunate. It's not funny at all. Speaking of unhealthy eating, I have skipped lunch, which I never do. It's still early. I could still get it in. I'm really prioritizing myself right now. Should have had another cup of coffee instead of tea. 3 hours of sleep aren't doing me much good right now. I also can't laugh or I cough. Okay, I need more coffee. So of course, I thought I'd be able to speak. That is a cold. Ooh, that's too cold. Don't even get me started on that smear test. I mean, this is not really the best day to do this, is it? Just ignore that. Come on, body. Work with me. We're a normal person. Well, normal. I don't really like that word, but see how I'm looking after myself by doing this video when I literally can't breathe. Sends me into like, can you see that? Oh, there's like a weird piece of fluff. No stuff. I'm not gonna go too far into it. I can't anyway because I can't breathe. So I think that's it.